Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John. This is Many a True Nerd, and welcome to a little bonus episode of Far Cry 4. And we're getting right into the nub of it now. Indeed, RJ, my son, I have but one last wish. Take me back to Lakshmana. A request that would have been much easier if my mother had actually told me who Lakshmana was in the first place. But apparently she thought it would be more fun just to tell me to go to another country, and I just figure it out as I went along, obviously. I mean, it can't take that long to explore a whole country. I mean, Kirat's not even that big a country, for goodness sake, RJ, you wuss. I just wanted to make one more episode because obviously I picked I'm told people think is like the bad ending. That's what people are telling me, that I picked the bad ending when what I did was I shot Pagan in the face. I stand by that he needed to be shot because this is a man who, had I not shot him in the face and let him get away, he would have been back. 5 minutes later. Though I'm told, apparently in the other ending, had you sat down, one, he would have explained everything to you, and then you would have just been able to shoot him as he was trying to escape anyway. So that's a shame. If I'd have known that, obviously I would have gone for that, but I felt like if the choice was between letting him live and talking with him or shooting him had to be the sensible option under the circumstances. So that's what I went with, and I stand by that was the most sensible option, at least. But yes, I've decided to make one quick more episode because obviously, as many of you, probably the vast majority of you are aware, Far Cry 4 has a secret ending. A secret ending that actually explains just about everything that I missed. And I didn't know about this, don't worry. I don't like to show off the ending to a game before I've completed the game. So I thought if I showed off the secret ending really early on, even though I knew about it, it would be a bit weird. Because I'd have been telling you, I'd have basically been spoiling the entire plot, and I was hoping we'd get to I wanted to show it off in the way that it organically rolled out in the game. It didn't in the end. I picked an ending where I never learned to talk, but I didn't realise that was going to be a thing, if you see what I mean. So anyway, let's just skip forward into the dinner, shall we?
Stay right here. Enjoy the crab rangoon. Don't move. I will be right back. Yuma, we need to talk.
And indeed, as a great many of you will already know, Pagan Min is not actually joking. The secret into this game is when he tells you to stay here and enjoy the crab rangoon, he actually means it. If you stay still for about 20 minutes, he finishes his phone call with Yuma. Presumably, the torture downstairs is all done, and you are free. And then at that point, there's going to be a little extra cutscene with a secret end to the game that does actually explain everything that would happen anyway. You're obviously supposed to hear the screaming in the background and go and investigate it, but just don't. Just ignore the prompts on screen, leave it all be. So obviously, I want to talk about the endings of this game. So firstly, the ending that I chose, a few people said that I must have been really disappointed with the ending I chose. No, actually, the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. And the reason I really liked Far Cry 4's Kill Pagan ending was because in lots of in-games, when you expect to go, fight the final boss, kill him, and then get a proper satisfactory conclusion where everyone explains what's going to happen next. And you get a proper little explanation, everything's super satisfactory and all nicely wrapped up in a little bow. And that's not very realistic when you think about it. In many ways, it makes a lot of sense that if you just kind of show up and burst into the bad guy's room and shoot him in the head, you can't be surprised if you don't learn any of the secrets that he had. You've chosen your own ending. This is entirely your own fault. If you, however, are willing to sit down with the bad guy and listen to him, well, then you'll learn a lot. It makes a lot of sense. I actually kind of like it. I got the ending I deserved. Nothing more and nothing less. Now, let's talk about the other proper endings as well, because obviously other people told me, hey, I know I chose Amita's ending, but there's a little bit of a follow-up to that. There is, and I recorded it, but the recording was corrupted, and I couldn't flipping do it again because when I also went to record this part, it overwrote the old save file because you cannot have you can literally have one save file in Far Cry 4, which is stupid, and we've really moved past that, gaming industry. This isn't Pokemon Blue. I don't have limited storage space on a cartridge. Just let me drop multiple saves. I know that obviously the game's trying to stop me just saving before key choices to see how they all go, but come on, it's ridiculous that in order to play through the beginning of the game again, I had to wipe out all my progress, and that's basically a completed Karat with all the outposts and all the towers and all the weapons. I had to delete that entire game purely so that I could just see the opening again. That's ridiculous. But yes, I did actually go and do the after game stuff. But obviously, I unfortunately cannot show it to you because I did record it, but it was corrupted. So basically, if you go to what's the city called? I think it's Teartha. You find Amita, and you find that she has basically done exactly what you saw in the drugged out Yuma's vision. I think that was in my part 17, if I recall correctly, where basically Amita has taken the city, marched in with her forces, and is now abducting children. Pretty much at gunpoint in order to train them to be part of the Golden Path, and she openly says it's because the drug field needed to be guarded and workers need to be kept in line. It's also strongly implied that because, unfortunately, Badra would be a rallying point for her enemies, therefore she's sent Badra away, and our understanding is because she's nowhere on the map, she's been murdered. So basically, yeah, she did this, she spoke a good game about the liberation of women, but then murdered Badra, the one person she was trying to save from forced marriage. She went on to kill. Yeah, not great at all. So at that point, you do actually get the choice to kill her, which is nice. So I took that. I shot her repeatedly in the back with a shotgun, and then used Molotov cocktails to set her on fire. Then I dumped her body in a river. So yes, I thought that was somehow appropriate, given I'd been feeling deeply uncomfortable with everything she'd done. My understanding is I haven't played the Sabal ending, but I've seen someone else play it. Basically, he goes full-on religious autocracy, and yes, that ends up being not much better. So yes, pretty much there is no good ending to this game. Quite frankly, I think I might have been quite close to the good ending of the game, which is murder Pagan, murder Sabal, murder Amita, become king. Maybe I could be king. Maybe I could sing, "Oh, I just can't wait to be king," and it would all be fine and marvellous. But yes, the endings are all a little bit unsatisfactory, but I feel like they're all supposed to be. I think kind of the story of the game is there is sometimes in, like, you know, a situation like this, there are no goodies and baddies. Pagan is a bastard, but anyone who replaces him is going to be just as much of a bastard. It's kind of a similar sort of idea that you find in Skyrim, I think, where it doesn't matter who you decide out of the Imperials or Stormcloaks you're going to make rule the area. You kind of get the feeling that they're assholes anyway, and everyone's going to mess it up and be horrendously horrible to everyone else. But you kind of have to do it anyway. Well, actually, Skyrim, of course, gave you the way out that you could just have the peace conference, which I think in many ways is the better option. But yeah, Skyrim gave you the option where if you decide that anyone's going to rule the land, that it's pretty much implied they're going to do a bad, unfair job, and no one's going to be happy with it. Far Cry 4 does the same thing, but it kind of sticks to its guns a bit more. Thematically, I think it's very interesting. But of course, that doesn't answer the question of Lakshmana and your mother. Obviously, I was calling all along that Pagan Min was actually going to be my father, because it was pretty obvious from the opening cutscenes that he, you know, was very close to my mother. It's very clearly implied that he'd been in love with my mother and had a relationship with her at some point. But anyway, let's skip ahead now, 15 or so minutes, and wait for Pagan to pop back into frame. I will actually also say, while I'm waiting, the introduction to this game is very, very confusing, because there's no reason for Pagan to leave you alone. It's very mysterious. When you think about it, we've got to confirm the opening bit, that he basically sent, 4 or 5 soldiers to the checkpoint, whose mission was to stop the bus, to make sure that they intercepted you. And then he shows up in a helicopter, and he's brought a couple of his elite troops in the helicopter with him. You see them showing because they've got the bigger, bulkier body armour. So he's brought kind of more troops along. And then he puts a bag over your head while you're in transit. So, you know, he's clearly genuinely keen on capturing you and bringing you to the palace, and obviously going through the thing that we're about to see. Is when he actually comes back. But then he wanders off, and he doesn't leave a single guard. Why did he put 5 guards on the border to intercept you, bring you here with a bag over your head, so he's pretty damn keen on you being here, and then not leave a single guard in the room? I mean, it's not like you're in a secure environment. There'd be literally nothing to stop me. You can't, but, you know, you could. There's an open place in front of you. You could just hop out and climb down. And by the way, if you actually go forward, obviously I'm not going to do that because that would break the fact that I'm staying perfectly still and enjoying the Crab Rangoon officially. If you do go forward and look down, there's no guards down there. It just looks like an empty garden. Like, it would be the easiest thing in the world for me to just hop over that, clamber down if I was capable of doing that, and then just make a run straight over that hill crest and be on my way. And it looks like there's nothing to stop me doing that. There's open doors at the bottom that obviously lead to the torture room that you see and can see in like the first part that I played this, where I did the intro. It's a very unusual environment to have left you in. If you've brought someone here with a bag over their head, with armed people, and they don't know the relationship between you and them yet, and they've no reason to trust you aside from the fact that you've just been a bit creepy, murdered someone in front of them, been a bit psychotic in general, opened up the ashes of their dead mother and had a quick taste, you don't necessarily assume that that person is going to be 100% trusting. You just think, you know what, I'll stay for dinner. I'm doing it just to show the exit, but it's a very odd situation that he would ever assume anyone would stay. You'd think he would just leave one guard. One guard. There's plenty of guards. There's so many guards outside when you actually do the escape. If you actually do the escape and you run into Sabal, there's so damn many guards outside. And if you go past the torture room, I think there's 3 guards in then, when only one of them's actually doing anything. I mean, the guy's tied up and being electrocuted. Let's have one guy with a gun on the far side of the room to keep an eye on him. One guy who's actually working the electrocution-y controls. And one of those guys could probably say, hey, maybe you should just go and keep an eye on the guy who we were sent to actually bring in. A guy who Pagan is so keen to be brought in that one person who accidentally started a firefight with the bus and might have accidentally shot this guy, we've decided he was going to be murdered. Murdered by being stabbed in the neck repeatedly by Pagan. He's furious about it, yet he doesn't leave a single guard. It's so annoying. Anyway, yes, back to the waiting. Back to the waiting. This could have been shorter. I feel like the game overdid it with, I think it's a 20-minute wait timer before Pagan Min shows up again, which I think is too much. I think a 10 would have been absolutely fine. I mean, quite frankly, 5 would probably have been fine. No gamer stands perfectly still for 10 minutes unless you're creating a character in Skyrim, in which case, yes, then probably 10 minutes would be extremely modest, and if you were interrupted after 10 minutes, you'd be, no, I'm only just getting started, damn it. Aha, here we bloody go.
Bloody-tastic. You, sir, are a gentleman. I sincerely apologize. We saw terrorists in the area and yada yada. The Crab Rangoon, right?
It's nice to see Pagan with his jacket off too.
Fabulous. Well, come on, let's go.
I guess we're supposed to assume he took the jacket off because he was involved in the torture downstairs. Search for the lost letters and Mohan Ghale's journal entries that scattered across. Nah, I'm good. I'm just going to go for a nice little joyride with the king.
Part of me is surprised your mother asked for you to bring her all the way back here. Thank you, Kamran.
You want me to follow?
Jesus Christ. Yes, boy, the ashes aren't going to scatter themselves. Did your mother ever tell you about your father?
Never know.
He hauled your mother out, sent her to spy on me. But we fell in love. We had a child. And that is when Mohan showed his true colors. He drove you and your mother away. Even killed your sister, Lakshmana. Which brings us here. Lakshmana shouldn't be alone anymore. I'm so glad we're finally back together. After you.
And into the shrine we go. So as you can see, I was not 100% right, but I was pretty darn close. I was called that obviously RJ was going to be Pagan's son. Not quite true. While it's never confirmed one way or the other, I think we can reasonably assume that RJ was indeed the child of the mother and father as we were originally told. But rather there was a second child who was killed by my father in a furious rage. And indeed there is an extra journal here, and we see there that my mother used to get upset when Mohan spoke about the future training. But should this war outlive me, you should be ready to assume my position. The future of Karat is in your hands, according to my father in that journal there. But let's go over here, and there's the ashes of my, well, either my full sister or my half sister. And let's pop down my mother's ashes next to them. My mother's wishes were to be put next to Lakshmana. So, I love you and will always be with you, says Mom. And it would seem that Pagan Min's story does check out, Pagan Min's story was that the mother and him were deeply in love and that the father was actually a bastard. We hear later from Willis that my mother actually was the one who killed my father, and this kind of bears out that the fact that mother's dying wish was to be returned to this little baby girl rather than being buried with her husband. So it would appear that was all true. That and the fact that obviously RJ confirmed outside that the mother never spoke of the father really. So yes, I feel like that's a very good little ending there. We've found out what Lakshmana is, and we've actually completed my mother's wishes very easily and with very little gunplay. Anyway, let's pop back outside.
Oh, good. You feel better now? Get it out of your system? Good. Maybe now we can finally shoot some goddamn guns.
And there you are. That is pretty much all the unanswered questions actually settled from Far Cry 4. Lakshmana was the only really question I had, as well as what was going to happen later to Amita and Sabal, and obviously I've covered both of that too. So there we are, Far Cry 4. Some people seem to suggest in the comments that they felt I ought to be disappointed by the ending of the game. I wasn't. The more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Some things are like that. Sometimes you're a little disappointed by something when you first see it. When you think about it, you realise it actually makes a lot of sense. And I kind of felt that way about Far Cry 4. Fantastic little game. I will very likely go back and do something more with this or with Far Cry 3. Something else with the franchise. Anyway, I don't know. I've played Far Cry 3 for 10 minutes at one point. Just for some reason, I just didn't really get into it. So I just never really played it again. But I do own it. And I might well do it at some point or other. But there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That was just a quick bonus episode for Far Cry 4, because I just wanted to show off the secret ending, go into my thoughts about the actual after game, and I was going to show you the Amita scene, but sadly I cannot. But I've told you what happened in it, and yes, I think that tells you all you need to know. So that's the end of Far Cry 4 for the minute. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I've been John. This has been Many a True Nerd, and this has been Far Cry 4. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Haha, I'm a genius at time. Oh, okay, this escalated quickly. I'd like to fly your drone. So good about a butterfly in a bucket. What does that tell you about the human condition? Are we the butterfly and is capitalism the bucket? What happens if you go right to the back in time? The very beginning of time. Oh, you literally just burn the universe.